But today we're going to talk about beef and beef production. Raise your hand if you like to eat beef. Yes, me too. Hamburgers and steaks and all that good stuff, right? We're going to talk about that later today. But first we're going to talk about how our farmers take care of our cattle, right? How they take care of cattle, why it's so important for them to take good care of their animals, and all good things that come with beef. So we're going to talk about beef cattle and how they're raised. We're going to talk about what beef cattle eat, beef byproducts and what those are, and how farmers provide us with safe and nutritious food, because they work very hard every day of the year to do that. Okay, so just like people, cattle come in different colors, shape, sizes, all different things, right? Everything's different about them. And a group of cattle is called a herd, right? So if you have one, just a cow or a bull or a steer or a heifer. But if you have multiple, it's a herd of cows, right? And so in this picture, we have different ones. Most of them are black, but one of them is kind of a red color. And cattle are also very curious, right? So if you're doing something in the field, if my dad's fixing fence or he's looking at something on the ground, right? Cows will come up and just kind of look at him like, what you doing, man? What we got going on here, right? They love to know what's going on. They're very curious creatures. So in this picture, there's something going on that they're looking at, right? That they're very curious to know what's going on. So there are different types of beef cattle, different breeds, right? Just like you have different kinds of dogs or different kinds of cats, we have different kinds of cows as well. So one that you may be familiar with is a black Angus that gets a lot of marketing stuff and publicity, right? They're very common and very popular in the United States and the state of Missouri. Yeah. Another common one is called a Hereford. They have red bodies and white faces, just like this, and they pretty much always are marked similarly to that. And then there are also shorthorns, which my picture's not showing up here, but shorthorns are red and white. Those are very common as well. That's actually the kind that my family has at home. And so there's a lot of different variety, both in the hair color and the body type and the style, different things like that. But most of the beef almost always tastes the same, right? It doesn't really matter what breed it is. So the life of a cow, life cycle. The cows breed and give birth to one calf every year, and they're about like humans, right? It takes about 9 months for the cows to go from to grow the calf, right? So the first few months of the calf's life, they drink their mother's milk, they spend time with their mother out in the field, they see, life from the side of their mom, they grow up to be a certain age, and then whenever they get to be about 8 months old, give or take some, they weigh about 500 pounds, then the farmer separates the cow and the calf. So it's kind of like if you have a brother or a sister or a cousin that goes off to college, right? They say, love you, Mom and Dad, but I'm going to go out and be my own person now. That's what the calves do, right? They say, love you, Mom, thanks for it, but I'm going on, right? I'm going on to be my own animal. So they head out, they go and they move on to the next part of their life where they're put with other calves the same age and they're fed grain or grass or different things like that, depending on what the farmer wants to do for his operation. And they move on. Whenever they weigh about, the market varies, but it's about 1,300 pounds, then they basically moved on to the next phase of life, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and that's where the burgers and the steak comes in, right? Yes, do you have a question?
Which one of those 3 cows produce the most milk?
The most milk? That's a great question. Actually, what we're talking about today is beef. So that's like the burgers, the steak, the meat side of things. There's a whole nother lesson that does the dairy side of the milk. We're going to talk about those another day. So none of those, actually. That's a really great question. That's another lesson for another day. Okay, so cows and calves, right? The cows are the grown adult versions. The calves are the little babies. Heifers are young females that have not had babies yet, right? So kind of like a teenager. After a heifer has had a calf, she is then called a cow. And it takes about 9 months, like I said, so it's just like humans, or about 283 days. So almost a full year, but not quite, before she can give birth, right? So a lot of good stuff with terminology there. So whenever animals get sick or injured, farmers call veterinarians to make their cattle healthier. So raise your hand if you have a cat or a dog at home. A lot of us do, right? Okay, if they get sick or hurt, or they need to have their yearly checkup, you take them to the vet, right? It's the same person. A veterinarian is an animal doctor, right? It takes care of those animals. There's small animal vets and large animal vets. Small animal vets specialize in the dogs, the cats, the pets. And then the large animals specialize in the cattle, horses, swine, sheep, those kinds of things, right? The livestock type animals. But it's very important to know that cattle get vaccinations just like humans do. Raise your hand if you got shots before you came to school. Shots in your arm.
Well, I had it during.
At some point you did, probably, right? Chicken pox, flu shot, something like that. You guys ever had shots before?
I have a question.
Okay, so if you've had shots before, right, you are going to, it's the same thing for cattle, right? They have to get shots to prevent illnesses, prevent different things, and then the veterinarians give them a body check, so they check and make sure that they're healthy and doing well, because it's very important for the vets to take care of their animals and the farmers to take care of their animals, because healthy cattle produce the most amount of milk, meat, all those things, right? It's very important to make sure that they're healthy. Yes?
I know we said about shots, but I'm kind of scared of shots.
I am
They
too.
make me cry.
They're not fun, right?
No.
Okay, so we're going to move on. So this video is actually, let's see if I get this light switch right in the finger. Yeah.
Which one is today?
You know I struggle with it. There we go. Okay, so this video that you're going to see, somebody put a camera onto a cow, and it walks around, and you can kind of see what a day in the life of the cow is like, and it'll talk a little bit about what they eat. So we will...
Calves diet is based on nursing from the cow, and then as they age, 2 and 3 months, they begin picking at some grass, and they'll graze along with nursing their mothers until around 6-7 months of age.
Here in cow-calf operation, we really don't feed the cattle. All we do is turn them out on forage, and they feed themselves. Particularly right in this area, we get some cold weather about early November, and the grass quality goes to nothing. So at that point we supplement them with some other nutrients to meet their requirements.
We have a lot of feedstuffs in this country that we refer to them as byproducts or co-products that are from some other industry. Things like citrus pulp in the state of Florida, or beet pulp if you're in the West, rice hulls if you're in Louisiana, soybean hulls and soybean chaff. I think it all comes back to the cow being a ruminant animal and being able to utilize these products that would not be utilized otherwise. From that point on, they may go to another backgrounding or grazing program, or may go into a grow lot or a feed yard environment.
When they first come here, their initial meal is made up of a large amount of roughage. The finished diet that they will be on for the bulk of the time that they're here consists of corn and alfalfa hay for roughage, and then the balance is protein supplement and a molasses blend. It adds a sugar flavor to it, and we look at balancing that diet so that the proper levels of protein and all of the essential nutrients, vitamins, minerals are available to the animal. They have access to fresh feed and water about any time that they want. Really, they lead a pretty good life.
What did you guys notice about the cows in those videos? What kinds of things did they do all day? Yeah. Yep, they ate a lot, they drank a lot, they walked around. What else? Yeah.
They stayed still.
They stayed still, they're just kind of hanging out being cows, right? What else?
They were curious and sniffing at the camera.
They were curious and sniffing at the camera, right? I just love cows, they're my favorite. Yes, what else?
This isn't really about that, but I read a book, and it says that some farmers actually don't feed their cows like corn and stuff. They feed them candy, like gummy worms and stuff.
That's not very common, but It may happen somewhere along the line, right? It might happen, but most of the time they eat what we saw in the videos, right? Corn, soybeans. We talked about that last week. We talked a lot about soybeans and how they're fed to cattle. But one of the things that I wanted you guys to notice in this video is that cows just kind of hang out all day, right? Somebody told me one time that if a cow could watch TV, it would, right? They could just lay around on the couch. That's all they do. They lay around, they eat, they drink, right? They sleep, they're curious, they sniff stuff out. That's just kind of what they do. So they live a really good life. They have all they want to eat, all they want to drink. Yeah, he said that in the video, didn't he? That they live a good life. And that's what I want you to think of whenever you think of beef production, is just lazy cows just living life, right? Being couch potatoes.
Just like us.
Just like us sometimes, right? Sometimes I'm a couch potato. That's exactly right. Okay, so beef cattle, they eat grass a lot, right? You'll see them out grazing out in the grass. You see that here around Columbia. They eat hay and other plant products that people can't eat. I do not want to eat grass, nor can I eat grass, right? Our bodies can't digest it like cattle bodies can. But here's like the hay bales. You'll see, not this time of year, that's a different time of year, but the farmers will cut hay and roll it into these big bales so that they can have it to feed this winter, right? They eat ground grain sometimes in the fall. If a farmer has access to a field of corn stalks, they'll turn their cows out on that and they'll just eat right off the ground. But this hay is not used this time of year. Why might this hay not be used this time of year? Yeah.
Maybe because if it gets too cold, possibly it will become bad.
It could be. You're on the right track with the cold part. So this time of year, is it going to snow?
No.
No, most likely not, right? There's still grass that the cows can eat, right? What about in December or January? What might it do? Snow, right? So the farmer has to have these bales of hay to feed his cows in the winter when they can't get to the grass. Because when it snows, you can't see the grass, right? Especially if it snows like it did last winter where it was up to our knees, right? We're tromping along like this. The cows don't have anything to eat, right? But every single day, if you have animals and you're a farmer, you have to work every single day, 365 days a year, to make sure your animals have something to eat. I know, it's crazy, right? Even on Christmas, what do you do on Christmas morning? Yep, you wake up, you open your presents, right? I'll tell you something. I'm 27 years old, and for 27 Christmases, I've had to wait for my dad to get back into the house before I could open presents, because he had to feed the cows first, right? They come from, I know, it's crazy stuff. Especially if the weather's bad. If there's snow, if there's ice, you have to make sure that they have something to drink. You have to make sure that the waters aren't frozen over. You have to make sure that they have access to something to eat before he can come in and enjoy his Christmas breakfast and all the fun things, right? So, it was tough sometimes to wait for him to open presents, but you gotta do what you gotta do, right? Okay. So cows digest food differently than we do, right? Their stomachs have 4 different parts, and the names are kind of funny. Okay, we're going to talk about them though. So the first part is called the rumen. Say that with me on 3. 1, 2, 3. Rumen. Good. So that's the largest compartment, and that's where the fermentation takes place, right? That's where it all kind of starts to digest and starts to kind of get all funky in there. So the second part, it's this little part up here, it's called the reticulum. Say that on 3. 1, 2, 3. Reticulum. Good job. So that's the contents here are exchanged between the rumen and the reticulum, and the big pieces are sent back up to the mouth to be re-chewed. Right? You heard me right. They re-chew it. But this is a sign, so that's called chewing their cud whenever cows do that, right? If a cow is relaxed, if she's feeling good, if she's healthy, she'll chew her cud, right? So that's one of the first things that my dad looks for and I look for whenever we go out and check cows. If we're thinking like, oh, she's maybe going to have a baby soon, if she's laying in the field and it looks like she's chewing gum, she's relaxed. She has no baby is on her mind, right? So dad's like, all right, we got about several hours before this happens, right? We'll come back and check her in the morning or whatever that looks like. And then at the same time, if we see her and her eyes are kind of bright like this and she's up, she's walking around, she looks kind of nervous like, oh, Lord, what's going to happen, what's going on, right? You can pick up on that because if you know your cows well enough, you know what their behavior looks like. And so if they're looking kind of nervous, they may be getting ready to have a baby if they're due in the next few days. Or if they're laying down kind of like this, they don't look very good, their ears are kind of droopy, they look sleepy, they're not chewing their cud, right? Maybe they don't feel very good, right? They might need some medicine. So then you can just kind of monitor that behavior over the next few days to see if that changes. Okay, so the third part is called the omasum. It's right here. Let's say that on 3. 1, 2, 3. Omasum. Good. That's where the water is absorbed, right? Cows drink a lot of water. We'll talk about how much water they drink when we talk about dairy. But cows are big animals, right? And they have to have a lot of water for this digestive system to work correctly. So the fourth and the final part is called the abomasum. 1, 2, 3. Abomasum. Good. And that's what kind of like the true stomach is, right? That's like what we have. That's where all our nutrients are absorbed and where the final stage of digestion happens for those cows. So those 4 parts make up their digestive system. So cattle are natural recyclers, right? They eat the grass, the corn, things like that. Then they poop it out, right? For lack of better terms. It goes back onto the grass, right? And it's a good fertilizer. The sun, the soil, the rain, all of that works together for the grass to grow again. So it's just a big cycle, right? Cow manure is very good fertilizer both for the grass and for other crops. Okay, I know it's silly to think about, but it's true, and that's how our cycle works. Yes, what's your question? Friends. Let's listen to her question, okay?
I know that cows eat grass, but I know this is not about cows.
If it's not about cows, let's come back to it at the end, okay? Yes, your question? We're going to talk about that in just a minute, okay? Okay, so raise your hand if you like steak. Yes. Raise your hand if you like burgers. Yep. A lot of good stuff, right? So the different types of meat comes from the different parts of the cows, right? So there's different cuts, there's different things like this. So the chuck, the ribs. Beef ribs are good. Short loin, sirloin is a cut of steak. So if you go to Longhorn or Texas Roadhouse or anything like that, and your parents order a sirloin steak, this is the part of the animal that it comes from. Round is from the back of the cow, right? Brisket, anybody had brisket? Right, it's good. 4-shank, short plate, and flanks. There's lots of different cuts that come from different parts of the animals. And it's very delicious, right? A lot of good stuff comes from beef cattle. That's not the only thing that comes from beef cattle, though, right? So we have our meat products. I know. Yeah, okay. So raise your hand. Let's raise our hand, right? Let's talk about...
Show 0. If you have something to say, raise your hand. Sick will call on you.
So there's a lot of different other products. We're going to talk about a lot of those today that come from cows besides just the meat that we eat, right? So raise your hand if you see something a little wacky on that screen that you maybe didn't know before. Yeah, what do you see? Crayons, right? And I'm not a crayon maker, so I don't know exactly what part of the cow goes into making the crayons, but I do know that there are parts that go into making some brands of crayons. What else? Lotion, right? Lotion, shampoo, different things like that. There's different oils and fats that can be used from the body of a cow that can go into making lotion and shampoo, right? What's another one? Yeah. A baseball, yeah. So leather. Leather goes into making different sports balls and shoes and purses and coats and things like that. And that comes from cattle as well. So the cool thing about beef production is hardly any of that animal goes to waste, right? We can use all different kinds of the parts to make different products and things like that in addition to the meat. So nothing goes to waste. It's a very, very good thing. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. Oh, we're out of order a little bit. Okay, so carrot comfort, we talked about this. So 365 days a year. What's happening in this picture up here?
Raise your hand.
Yeah, what do you see?
They're worried about the calf.
They're worried about it, perhaps. What does the weather look like? Yeah. Sunny, right? Looks like a nice day, much like what we have outside today. Here we have a family, right? A mom and a dad, and this little girl is helping to take care of this baby calf, right? That's a typical farm family here in Missouri. But it's a nice day, right? It would be a good day to be a cattle farmer on this day, right? You're probably not very cold, you're not real hot, it's not raining, it's just a beautiful day, right? It's a nice day to have cows. What's going on down here? Snowing, yeah. What else? Yeah.
It looks like the farmers are just going in to check on the cows.
Yep. Yep, farmers are going in to check on the cows, right? There's snow on the ground. Can you see the grass in this picture?
No.
You sure can't, barely, right? There's little sprockets down here. What are those cows thinking, you think? They're cold. They're probably thinking, I'm hungry. Yep, where's my food, right? But 365 days a year, we talked about this just now. Those farmers have to take care of those animals even when it's this kind of weather, right? The care remains the same on these 2 days, but there's probably more required on a day like this, right? So even on a day when it's cold, snowing, your birthday, Christmas, doesn't matter. If you have cattle and animals and you're a farmer, you have work to do. Beef has a lot of zinc, iron, and protein, or ZIP as we like to call it, right? It's very, very good for you. 3 ounces of beef has almost the same amount of zinc as 12 3-ounce servings of tuna, right? So you have to eat a lot more tuna to get the same amount of zinc as you do beef. What are some other foods that have protein in them? What do you think? Yeah. Vegetables might have a little bit. What else? Yeah. Beans have protein. Yeah. What else? Some of the bars do. Yeah. Corn, I don't think has quite as much protein. What about other meat kinds?
Yeah.
What about those? Yeah.
Eggs.
Eggs have protein. Yep. What else? Yeah. Bacon. Yep. What else?
I'm not. This is the type of meat. It's veggie.
Veggie meat? I'm not sure that that's really meat. That's mostly vegetables. It could have some protein in it.
That one has some.
Has some meat, right? What else? Yeah. Ribs. Yep, those for sure have some protein. Let's do one more. What's another type of meat? Yeah. Chicken. Yes, ma'am.
And
That's what I was looking for. Okay. Okay. So we're going to skip our workbook pages for today so that we can go ahead and move into our game. Okay. So we're going to play a game. That's our activity for today.